Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell. Brought to you by
OutdoorTVExperts.com. Everyone is spending more time at home these days, so wouldn't it be nice to watch a game, a movie, or even better, a concert while sitting on your patio or relaxing in your pool? Visit OutdoorTVExperts.com and use the Music Night discount to receive free shipping. OutdoorTVExperts.com, OutdoorTVExperts.com.
Okay, Michael, my part is done. Whether the rest of the show is any good is entirely up to you.
All right, we are here once again with the Music Night at the Majestic from Kankakee, Illinois, the historic Majestic Theater. And our guest tonight is Mr. John Oates. John, welcome to the show.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back in Kankakee, a place I know very well.
How about that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, with the when we announced that you were going to be on the show, the response we had was overwhelming, and we immediately had this barrage of questions that people have for you. So we'll get to those in a little bit. But there's a few things I want to talk to you about. You got the new album coming out. You got other projects going on.
Yeah.
Plus, I want to touch on your non-musical projects, collaboration, and all that stuff too, because for me, about the only thing that rivals my passion for music is my passion for cars and anything with horsepower and wheels. So we got to touch on that stuff too.
We're kindred spirits. I can see that.
All right. Well, tell you what, let's talk about the new album, John Oates and the Good Road Band with the live in Nashville. That was recorded at the Station Inn, correct?
Yeah, Station Inn in Nashville, Tennessee. A great listening music, a legendary music venue. It's predominantly a bluegrass venue, but there's a lot of singer-songwriter stuff that goes on there. It's actually the place where I put the band together for the first time. So coming back to the Station Inn to record this live album was kind of a full circle thing where we could come back to this room where we knew the vibe was great and we felt very comfortable. And that's where we recorded it on January 9th of this year before the world kind of shut down.
All right. And the songs on that, I would presume, and I know there's only been a few videos put out there as teasers, if you will. But these are the guys that you did Arkansas, the album from 2018 with, correct?
Absolutely. This is the exact band that recorded the entire Arkansas album. We recorded that album in the recording studio, but recorded it live, essentially. We played live, I sang live, very few overdubs or fixes on the Arkansas album. And of course, on this live album, it's the same band, but with about 2 years of touring under its belt. So the arrangements had evolved, the band got tighter. And we're playing predominantly songs from Arkansas, but a few other things, some of my solo stuff. We added a couple other old songs like the Don Gibson classic, Oh Lonesome Me, and a Johnny Cash song, which I had gotten to do at a Johnny Cash a tribute concert here in Nashville. So, a few little things, a few little special songs that are different, but it was just a great night. And I didn't know the world was going to close down in January of this year. And so I wanted to record the band because we had toured so much and band was just playing great. And I said, man, let's capture this. And so now I'm really happy I did because we can release this live album and now.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when Arkansas came out, that was the follow-up, if you studio-wise, to Mississippi Mile. And I remember, playing that and the 1,000 Miles of Life. I played those albums for some folks who were knew your duo stuff with Daryl, but had not heard that. And they're like, wow, this is a total departure or whatever. He's doing something new. And I said, well, actually, this is, not new, different than what they knew you from. But for you, it was actually kind of going back to where you started, wasn't it?
100%. Yes, you're 100% right. The music that I was making as a kid, really before I met Daryl Hall, was very much like this. I was a folkie. I was a blues guitar player. Played a lot of acoustic guitar, and when I met Daryl, we bonded over our mutual love of R&B and soul, and that kind of became the thing that we used as a place to move forward through as a duo. But In terms of what I'm doing on these new records, Arkansas and Mississippi Mile and all these ones, is that I'm really going back to my past, but going back with a sensibility of today, of what, my experience, my maturity, my playing level. So it's kind of bringing the past up to date, so to speak. But it's definitely using my past as a jumping off point.
Well, the thing that I think made you guys so successful was the fact that you and Daryl blended rock and pop and soul to come up with a unique sound. And you're doing that same thing now, only with other styles. In fact,
good. That's a really good point. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. It's exactly what, Daryl and I have always paid tribute, in a sense, to the people who came before us, and we've always, we always reference them in some way, even in our own original songs. There's always this kind of connection to the past, to the music that made us who we are. So it's absolutely the same with the solo album. It's me taking like Mississippi John Hurt material, stuff that I know like the back of my hand because I've been playing it for so long. And, I got to see him play in the 60s, when he was being rediscovered back during the folk revival. So, but taking those songs and kind of, here again, updating them, not only from my point of view, but with this incredible band that brings something totally different to the party, and also the band, the configuration of the band is what makes it unique. It's the kind of music we're making you don't really associate it with a guy with a mandolin, a cello, a pedal steel, and of course a rhythm section, electric guitar, 2 guitars and bass and drums. It's really that unique combination of instruments and those players that bring this totally unique sound to this older music.
Yeah. Now, not only do you do the older stuff like the Mississippi John Hurt, like what you mentioned, but on a couple of your albums, you've taken songs that you and Daryl did. You had a Change of Season.
Yeah.
On the one, and then You Make My Dreams Come True, you did a really cool version of on Mississippi Mile.
Yeah, it was kind of a rockabilly version of it. That was one of those weird things. When you get in the studio with great musicians and you're playing, you kind of have an agenda, you got a plan, right? You got your songs you want to record, and then when the session's getting near the end, especially if you've had a good day and it's gone quickly, you say, hey man, let's play something else. Everybody gets kind of jazzed up, and I said, well, how about this? And I started playing almost as a joke, You Make My Dreams Come True, but playing it almost like kind of like a rockabilly rootsy kind of version of it, and they all jumped on it and brought their thing to it, and that's how that came about. Yeah.
Well, I often say that for me the proof is in the pudding, if you will, with the quality of a song. A song that can be done in multiple styles. That's a well written song.
You're 100% right, man. I'm with you. It's one of those things. It's the acid test of a good song, of a good composition. You can take it. If you can pick up an acoustic guitar and play that. I can play Maneater on an acoustic guitar, and it still sounds pretty cool. So it doesn't have to have the production. I think a lot of people don't. I make a big distinction between the song and the record. They're two different things. The song is what happens when the writer's writing it, with his instrument, whether it be a guitar, piano, what it might be, and kind of that's the song. What happens, it becomes a record when you take it into the studio, and then musicians join in, engineers, technology, goes through equipment, it goes through wires and tubes and speakers and all kinds of stuff, special effects. That makes the record, and they're two different things.
Absolutely. Now, it's funny that you mentioned Maneater, because that's a song that I would love to hear you and the Good Road Band do.
Well, we actually do it, but we didn't do it that night.
Well, good.
Just one of those things. Interestingly enough, I'm doing some outside projects now, some new projects. And I don't know if you've turned on to this guy named Saxsquatch. If you haven't checked out Saxsquatch, you need to check him out. Anyway, we just did Maneater, he and I.
Oh, wow.
And we did a video as well, and it's going to come out pretty soon, and it's freaking cool. It's me and Saxsquatch in the woods playing Maneater, and I'll tell you what, And when I first got the idea for that song, I got the idea as a reggae song. It was the hook, the chorus, "Oh, here she comes, watch out, boy, she'll chew you up." I had as a hook, a reggae hook. And then when Daryl and I got together, it was Daryl's idea to turn it into a more of a Motown feel, the bump, 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 and, which is amazing. But I always wanted to record it as a reggae song. So with the Good Road Band, we do it as a quasi reggae. With Sax Squatch, we did it as a real reggae song. So I can't wait for you to hear it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's great. But actually, there's one of the questions I was gonna ask you. That I'd heard about that's how you had written it, is a reggae to begin with, but then things got changed. Now, one of the songs every day on Music Night on our Facebook page, we do a song of the day. Usually it's whatever song is in my head when I wake up. Okay. And today was Buddy Holly. Yesterday was Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. So I mean, it's all over the place, just like my musical mind goes. But we had done maybe 2 months ago your Italian Girls, and we did the clip from the H2O tour, and which was the live version was different than the album version.
Yep.
If I remember correctly on that. And the response that we got to that song was, it was a case of, wow, either people had forgotten it or they, had never heard it before, but just loved it. And what's the story behind that one?
Well, that's a funny story.
It is a family show, so let me put that out there first.
All right. Well, you might have heard this one before because you prefaced it the right way.
I'm just taking my chances there.
Yeah. Okay. We were touring in Italy for the very first time. So of course we were totally pumped about being in Italy. We were in Rome, and we had a record company executive, and he was a big heavyset guy, and he loved to eat and took us to these amazing restaurants, and we just ate and drank our way through Italy. But one night we were at this very luxurious old grand hotel in Rome, and we were at the bar just hanging out with the band and with this guy, with the Italian guy from the record company. And it turned out it was our drummer's birthday, and so we all were trying to figure out what to do, and he ended up sending let's just put it this way, he ended up sending him a date up to his room, and when the date came down, she said something very funny, which I can't repeat, but it gave me the idea. And that's really, the song has nothing to do with that, but that gave me the idea to write a song called Italian Girls. And I just started looking around me. I see all the monumental ruinization. I don't think ruinization is a word, but I really don't care.
If it works, it works.
I'll take my poetic license where I can, right? And that song, I know it's kind of a comedy song in a way. It's comedic, but the second verse is actually one of the favorite verses of any song I've ever written. And I drink too much vino rosso, say no more Amarone. I eat too much pasta, basta. I'm so full and yet so lonely. That's one of my favorite verses I've ever written.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the favorite songs that you have. Besides that, what's some of the songs when you look back you say, "Wow, I'm really proud of that one"?
Well, fortunately for me, I can say I'm proud of a lot of these songs. Almost all of them. Daryl and I are very discerning, and we were very, very. We took our songwriting very seriously. Even the songs that weren't hits, just the album tracks. I don't think we can honestly say that we never put a song on an album that was just filler, that we said, oh man, I don't like that song, but we're going to put it on anyway because we need an extra song. That has never been a thing with us. Every song on every record is something that we took a lot of care with and actually cared about. Only some of them became hits, of course, but honestly, I can say I'm proud of all of them. I'll go back. I got to go to She's Gone. That's a song that, man, it sounds as contemporary today as it did in 1972 when we wrote it. It's a song that he and I just wrote together, and we just tapped into this thing. It's really about loss, but it's also about everyday things that you can see. Like there's a line in there, worn as a toothbrush hanging in the stand. Now that's just such a everyday image. It's nothing special, but yet everyone can relate to that idea that this old toothbrush that you've been using and it's all worn out, kind of bristles all sprayed out. Stuff like that, even the opening line, which is very unique, everybody's high on consolation. That's just that opening line is like, man, I wish I could write another one like that, but there's so many songs. I mean, I can't go for that. Just the groove on that thing is just incredible. Daryl's, Sarah Smile is just such a classic. The list goes on, man. We're very fortunate to have songs that have stood the test of time.
Well, that's the other thing, that, when you, we talked about this the other day on the show, that it's interesting. Okay. Like, you take a look at some of your stuff from the 70s. Okay. The, early 80s, these songs are 40 plus years old. And when you go back 40 years from when those songs were on the charts, you never heard that music, in a public setting. You didn't go into a store and you didn't hear, Glenn Miller or Benny Goodman or whoever, as good as what those songs are. You just didn't hear them in a public setting.
Right.
Now hearing a 40, 45, 50-year-old song, nobody thinks about it. They have become so ingrained in society that, you've got these standards. And it's really cool. And I would guess that for you, if you're out someplace, the store or whatever, and you hear one of your songs come on, that's got to be a real thrill.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do. The only time I really do hear our music is by accident, but on the radio or like you said, in a store or whatever. But you made a really good point. I've never really thought about that. Maybe it's because the songs of the rock and roll era, especially going in the 60s and 70s, it's when, the recording techniques and radio really proliferated. It wasn't quite as big back in the big band era. People heard big band music live and they listened to it on record, but it wasn't quite the same. The exposure wasn't there. Maybe the fact that the songs of the rock and roll era got so much more mass exposure through media that these songs still live on today. And the other factor is, they call it classic rock, right? Well, the word classic actually has a meaning, and the definition of classicism is something that stands the test of time, that is not a fad or not something that is just of the moment. It's something that transcends the time it's in and can go on and live on forever. So if our songs can be considered as classic rock songs, that's a huge compliment, and that's something very important.
Yeah, I would think. Now, for you guys, when Voices hit, that was the album that broke you guys big commercially, if you will. There, What was the difference between, obviously the songwriting was consistent the whole way through. What was the difference with that album?
Well, to make a long story short, the difference was that it was the first album we produced ourselves. That's what made the big difference. But the true story of how we got there is the story of the 70s. And without the experience of the 70s, Voices would have never happened. We had to have that experience. We had to work with the great Arif Mardin on the first two Atlantic albums. We worked with Todd Rundgren on the War Babies album. We worked with a guy named Christopher Bond on three albums we made in LA in the mid 70s that had Rich Girl and all those songs, Sarah Smile. And then in the end of this decade of the 70s, we had been recording up to that point. We had only recorded with studio musicians. Every album, we always had a live band, but we never felt our live band was the type of band that we wanted to go into the recording studio with. So we recorded with studio musicians. At the end of the decade of the 70s, we finally had a band that we felt that we could record with. And we did the Along the Red Ledge and the Ecstatic album. David Foster was our producer. Now, David Foster had never really produced anyone up to that point. His career was just getting started. Of course, he's become a mega star in the world of record production. But at the time, he was just kind of getting started himself. And we recorded those albums with our road band, and really that was the key that unlocked where we would go further on. And after David Foster, we realized we just didn't need a producer, that we wanted to do it ourselves. And that at that time, we created this great road band, and we went in and did the Voices album in New York and recorded it the way we wanted to record it. And that it really made all the difference. And it set our course and set the tone for our commercial success of the 80s.
Well, you talked about having the band. The folks that you're playing with now, it reads like a who's who of premier musicians. Why don't you tell everybody who you have, who's playing with you on the new album Arkansas and what have you? Well,
the Good Road Band is unbelievable. They're great friends and incredible musicians. First of all, I got to start off with Sam Bush, he's an unofficial member because Sam's got a band of his own and tours on his own and records on his own. But whenever, Sam was one of my first friends moving to Nashville. He welcomed me to the music scene, the Americana roots music scene. He invited me to play at the Telluride Bluegrass Festival. So whenever I get a chance to play with Sam, it's a given. It's just going to be amazing. Guthrie Trapp is our lead guitar player. He is absolutely if you talk about a hot shit lead guitar player, he is the very definition of a hot shit lead guitar player. The guy can burn. He's an exciting player. Every time he plays, people just go nuts. Steve Mackey's our bass player. Mackey's a veteran who I've been playing with for many years now in Nashville. He's played with the likes of Roseanne Cash and the Wallflowers, and just did Peter Frampton's last tour. Josh Day's our drummer and percussionist. He's played with Sarah Bareilles. Let's see. Oh boy, so many people. Goes on and on. And Russ Paul is the pedal steel player, very innovative, incredibly unique pedal steel player. Plays with Dan Auerbach, among others. And Nat Smith is our cello player. He's a young, really genius cello player who is now in the Casey Musgrave Band. So really, it's a who, as you say, it's a who's who of all-star Nashville musicians. And when you hear them play, you'll know why. And above and beyond their incredible playing, the way they listen to each other and the way they work off each other and the synergy between the instruments and how they kind of just flow together is really magical. And it's something that you can't teach. It's something that you either do or you don't. And these guys are consummate musicians. So they take my songs and bring them to a whole other level.
Yeah. So, when in listening to Arkansas, then the clips, from the new album, you listen to it the first time and you kind of, take it in. And then with each listen, you hear something subtle that's, one of the musicians does or, what have you. So if you haven't listened to Arkansas yet, do yourself a favor, go get it. And if you like that, by all means, you're going to like the Live in Nashville album. So tell you what, John, as I mentioned before, we had, as soon as we announced that you were going to be on the show, we were just inundated with questions for you.
Okay.
So if you want, we'll get into those and see where this takes us.
Why not?
All right. Well, tell you what, first up is going to be a question from Kitty in Florida. And Kitty is slick. She does a 2-part question. So she figured out a way to actually get to ask you 2 questions, but make it sound like one.
All right.
So part 1 is, what's your favorite cover of one of your songs or other, multiple songs, and why?
Favorite cover? Well, first of all, Daryl and I have only done 3 covers in our entire life. Okay. We did, let's see, we did the whatchamacallit, I'm losing it. Righteous Brothers, You Lost That Love and Feeling.
Yeah, now, to interrupt you, I heard there was an interesting story that song wasn't even supposed to be on the album. Is that correct?
That's right. It was the Voices album that we were talking about earlier. We, in those days, what we would do is we'd have a listening party when the record was finished, and we'd invite the record company, our managers, friends, whoever, radio people, to come to the studio and actually hear the record for the first time. we did that, and we got a great response. We felt, yeah, it was really good. And right afterwards, Daryl and I and the band, we went out for a slice of pizza literally down the block in Greenwich Village from Electric Lady Studios, where we were. And we were sitting in there eating a pizza, and we felt like, man, maybe there's something missing. Like, does it need one more song? We were kind of just talking. And on the jukebox, You Lost That Love and Feeling by the Righteous Brothers began to play. And we looked at each other and went, wow, let's just do that. And we literally called the band in the next day, went in the studio, we cut the track, sang it, and by 5 o'clock that afternoon, we were done. And we put that on the album, and it became a pretty big hit for us.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say that's probably my favorite one that we've ever done. We did do a song by Mike Oldfield, Family Man, which was on the Mike Oldfield album. And that was here again, a kind of a last minute decision. One of the technicians, roadies in our band, came to the studio one day with the new Mike Oldfield album and said, man, you should hear this song. You guys could do a great version of this song. And he played Family Man. And we said, wow, that's cool. Let's do that. I mean, so that's, and the other one was an obscure reggae song that I brought back from Jamaica in 1975 called Soldering, which hardly anybody knows about. But I heard it when out on the beach in Jamaica, and I loved it. And I literally bought the 45 while I was in Jamaica and brought it back, and we did a version of that.
How about covers of your songs that other bands or artists have done? Which one of those do you?
Wow. Well, man, I Can't Go For That has been sampled so many times that I can't even begin to, there's been so many versions. The very first version actually, it was the first time I ever heard a sampled song, was the group De La Soul from New York did a version, and they used I Can't Go For That. They called it Say No Go. And that was the first time I ever heard that. Anyone using the idea of sampling, taking someone else's song and recrafting it into something else. Interestingly enough, considering how many hits we've had, we haven't really had a lot of covers of the songs. Lou Rawls and a group called Tavares did She's Gone. Tavares had a #1 R&B hit with their version of She's Gone, and I always liked that. So I don't know,
Now, is there a song of yours where you wish somebody, you heard it, you go, man, that'd be a perfect song for so-and-so to do?
Well, sure. I mean, I wish Marvin Gaye sang all of our songs.
Doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell you what, let's move on to our next question here. Mike in Texas wants to know, what was it like to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, it was a long night, I can tell you that. What you see on the TV show has nothing to do with what actually happened that night. I'll just leave it there. But anyway, listen, it's an amazing thing to happen to you in your career. It's really kind of puts a stamp on your career. It says, you've accomplished something, above and beyond the ordinary. And so it's an amazing thing. A few years before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Daryl and I got inducted in the American Songwriters Hall of Fame. And to be, mentioned among the great songwriters in America, going all the way back to like Cole Porter and George Gershwin and, the Brill Building, amazing writers from the Brill Building, Lieber and Stoller, on and on. That is an honor that I think is very important, because when I think about it, if we hadn't written the songs that we wrote, we wouldn't be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, I kind of go back to that American Songwriter Hall of Fame induction and say that was pretty important too.
Well, and interestingly, you answered just there one of the questions that Rosa had sent in. So not only did you answer about Mike,
Rosa, I'm telepathic. I read your mind, Rosa.
It's the Psychic Music Network.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Kim in Florida wants to know if you ever thought about making a coffee table book about your famous mustache.
No, there's been a lot written about my mustache. Lots of stuff out there about my mustache. I don't know. No, actually, I haven't. I don't think my mustache deserves a coffee table book. If it does, it would be really thin. I mean, I think my mustache deserves a comic book. How about a comic book?
Yeah, there you go. Tell you what. Next up, Nick wants to know, how did your appearance on the Goldbergs come to be?
It came to be right before the shutdown. I had gotten word that the Goldbergs wanted to do this bit with, on the show about two of the guys pretending, they were supposed to be Hall and Oates, but they got their wires crossed and they show up and they're both dressed as Oates. I thought it was a really funny concept, and it was in February, and I actually had some downtime, and I love going to California, and because I got some really good friends out there, and so I called my manager and I said, hey, this Goldbergs thing that they're doing, what would they think if I showed up and did like a cameo appearance? So he reached out to them and they said, oh, great idea. So it gave me an excuse to go to LA, see some friends. And, it literally took 3 hours. I mean, showed up in the morning. They gave me the janitor's suit and, we did some makeup and went in there, had the script, and the cast was incredible. They're really, really cool. And I was a little nervous with the script reading because, they have a thing they do. They've been on the air for 6 years. So that's like a well-oiled machine, the way they interact with each other and, the way they deliver their lines. So I was like trying to make sure I didn't really ham it up too bad. And they were great. They helped me through it. And we had a good time. So it was fun.
Yeah, good deal. Good deal. Well, tell you what, we are actually, at our 30 minutes already, believe it or not.
All right.
Tell you what, we still have more questions. If
we can do a couple more if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, tell you what, let's move on to, let's see here. Debbie wants to know if you and Daryl have plans to tour next year, if tours are a thing, and if so, would you be coming through Chicago?
Well, here's the thing. We have tentatively booked a tour for next year. It starts in early August of 2021. And yes, it is on the books right now. And I guarantee you Chicago will be one of the shows. I don't have it in front of me. But hey, you know what? It's week to week, month to month with this thing. And we got our fingers crossed. We're hoping that this is all going to happen for all of us. Because I know the world wants live music and we want to play. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we can make this happen. And hopefully this time next year, we'll be out there.
All right, good deal. George wants to know that if you've ever dialed the Call & Oates hotline.
Yeah, I've dialed the Call & Oates hotline. When we first found out about it, it's been out for a long time. It was some guy from Silicon Valley's brainchild. And at first we thought, man, we can't let this guy just do this stuff. And then we thought, wow, it's like free publicity. This guy's like giving us all this free publicity. So we just let it go. I think it's kind of funny.
All right. Let's see here. John in Kentucky wants to know if you and Daryl considered any other names to use for the band before you settled on Daryl Hall and John Oates.
No. We've always called ourselves Daryl Hall and John Oates because we want to be perceived as two guys who work together, not this two-headed monster thing. No, we didn't. We never came up with. I think if we would have put our heads together, we probably could have come up with a better name than Hall & Oates. But hey, too late now, right?
Well, I'm going to say that it worked.
Yeah, it worked. It worked only because you've heard it 100 million times.
John in South Carolina asks, how do you find new music these days since it's so hard to get airplay?
Well, most of the music that I hear comes through mutual friends. It's people sending me things or musicians turning me on to something that they're working on. And a lot of times, to be honest with you, I'm working always, I'm so focused on the stuff that I'm doing that I don't really go to the outside and listen to other music too much. It's really, unless it's just, I happen to hear something, but I'm always mixing or, trying to change some songs around. So most of the music I listen to are songs that I'm working on. I just finished a movie working on a very cool movie called Gringa. You could look it up, gringamovie.com. It's a great story about a young girl who goes to Mexico to try to find her father, who's left a long time ago, and wrote 4 songs for that. One with a really cool hip hop artist from South Carolina named Servan Campbell, and another one with I did a duet with a great Mexican singer named Jimena Sariana. And she and I, because there's a lot of Spanish content in the movie, and I got to sing in Spanish for the first time, which was cool. And another one with an awesome good friend of mine from Nashville who now lives in LA named Daphne Willis. And she and I did a couple songs together as well. So the movie is really cool. It's going to be coming out probably at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And you can check it out.
All right. And then finally, Janet in Illinois wants to know, what current bands or artists are you listening to? And what was it that attracted you to them?
I kind of listened to that. I kind of answered that question before. I'm not listening to anyone in particular. I like the Black Pumas as a new band. They've got a really cool sound. It's kind of retro, but they've done a twist on it. So many people. I like Gary Clark Jr. I like Joe Bonamassa. I'm into a lot of blues, mostly blues and Americana stuff. So I'm always listening for stuff like that. I've heard a lot of great Americana music coming out of the UK, out of England. There's a great artist named David Starr, who actually I produced his last two albums. He's got an album called Beauty and Ruin that's out now. He's a great artist. Got some cool songs. So yeah, there's always people out there, great people.
All right. Well, tell you what, I know the show is called Music Night, but I'm going to switch gears here because you and I share another passion besides music, and that is all things automotive. Anything
you want to see my shirt, my GoPro Motoplex shirt.
Now you got a couple things. The short film Karma Carrera, which chronicles the Carrera that you bought. Was it 84?
Yes.
And then do a quick. I want everybody to tell them where they can see this. I watched it a while back, and it was just enthralled with it. So tell everybody about that.
The PCA Porsche Club of America did a beautiful video on this car that my wife and I call the Karma Carrera, and it's on Car Elaboration. And if you just go on YouTube and Google car elaboration or Karma Carrera, you can find it. That car, when I was on tour in Europe in the 80s, I was doing some racing at the time, and I had a very good friend in England who was racing Porsches, and he made arrangements for me to have a VIP tour of the Porsche factory. And in doing so, I met with a guy. They had a program called Sonderwishes, which means special wishes in German. And it was the beginning of Porsche's kind of customization, the very beginnings of when they started doing that for customer cars. And I met with a guy, and we spec'd out a car in pearl white with special interior and all sorts of special equipment. And that car was delivered to me in New York in 1984, which I kept until 1990 and sold it. Fast forward to this past Christmas, my wife and I were on Instagram and I always look at cars, as you probably do, and scrolling through, a bunch of cars. All of a sudden I saw this white 911, pearl white, and I went, that looks like my old car. And sure enough, it was on an auction site in New Jersey, and called Dream Car Exchange. And we got a hold of the guy, and we started bidding on the car, and we ended up buying it. And so now we have it. So it's kind of unique that, I had designed the car back in the 80s, and now we have it come back to us. And, so now we've got it. And the people who've owned it, there were only two owners, I believe, who in between me since 1990. And they kept it in really perfect original shape. So it's just amazing that it's a kind of a time capsule.
Excellent. It's a great story. So if you have even a passing interest, in cars, definitely check it out. Now, another automotive thing that you have going is Carlaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell everybody about that?
It's my Instagram website that I wanted to develop into a format for me to interview people and I've got so much going on with music and other things that I didn't want to combine my crazy car life with my music life because it was just too much. There's too much going on. So I thought if I created my own separate Instagram page for my car stuff, and the problem was as soon as I created it, I got so busy with music, I haven't been able to put stuff in it. So I'm getting back into that now. I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff. I've got a great video that I did that talks about how my Rod Emery car was built. And so I'm going to be posting that shortly. And there'll be some more stuff coming down the line as well.
Excellent. Good deal. Well, John, I appreciate you taking the time to join us here.
Man.
We ran a little bit long, but we really appreciate it. So, all right, everybody. We'll tell you what. You'll if you want more info on John's new album, go to johnoates.com. You can see the discography there as well. If you like roots music, if you will, for lack of a better description, Americana, you need to go through John's solo stuff. And I was just listening to Mississippi Mile, earlier today. Yeah, that's why Make My Dreams Come True was stuck in my head earlier.
That album really is the precursor to the stuff I'm doing now. Yeah, I did that with the great Mike Henderson, who is original founder of the Steel Drivers, and Mike is an incredible guy. Yeah.
So, but and you've got was Stack of Lee on that one as well?
No, but there was a version of Palette. Make Me a Palette on Your Floor on that, which I then transmogrified into Palette Soft and Low on the Arkansas album. That's the album that had the version of You Make My Dreams Come True on it.
There you go. So, but all right, again, everybody, johnoates.com. This you can see this video on themusicnight.net, plus also our Facebook page and YouTube. And we appreciate everybody coming in. John, thank you again.
Well, I'll just one more plug, if you don't mind. September 18th, the album gets released on all digital formats. And if you want a CD, if you're one of those folks who needs a CD, Amazon will be making CDs of the album as well.
All right. I'm a CD guy. I like having my tangible.
I know what you're saying. Got to have something in your hand. I get it.
It's as close as I can get to the old days. Plus, I'm a liner note guy, so I like having it to read stuff.
Well, unfortunately, the liner notes, there's not much liner notes on it, but the credits will be on my website, and on my Instagram page is pretty active with all kinds of stuff as well.
All right. Sounds good. John, thank you so much for
appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Say hi to Kankakee for me.
I will do that.
All right.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.